Penalty dead last. Why? They know it doesn't stop people at a time of murder when they're not thinking of consequences. If you're not thinking of consequences when you kill somebody, we could have a lot of burned people at the stake or boil them and all in the public square and bang, 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 I'm mad and you dead. They're not thinking of consequences. It doesn't do anything. And we got to start being smart. And budget and cost is not just a purely practical thing. Martin Luther King said the most moral document we ever look at is a budget. How are we using resources for life in our state instead of for symbolic death, which we never use anyway? It's just not even smart. But it's moral to consider the cost. Because think of the at-risk kids. Think of the people without health care. Think of the crunch in this state, which all states are going through now. And how are you going to spend your resources? How are you going to spend it? The machinery of death is a multi-million-dollar operation. For what purpose? And don't think the people don't get it. Yeah, the people can get it. The people in New Jersey got it. And what is needed, and this is all of us, legislators need our backing and support. When they stand up there to take a stand, it's because the citizens have gotten to them and said, we will back you up. Don't you worry that you're going to lose an election because of all things the death penalty. You're going to take a moral stand. And if we're not there with them, they won't have the courage they need to do the right thing. We got to get the information out there, but as you said, as our senator said, the arguments are all on our side, but we got to do the work, and we got to get in there, and that's what they did in New Jersey, and that's what they did in New Mexico, and I predict, I call for it, and my own commitment to help you in any way I can is that Montana's going to be the next, and it's going to be in 2011. We're going to do this thing. We're going to do it. And there will be a beautiful symbol for Montana, as there has been for New Jersey and for New Mexico. That the Roman Colosseum in Rome, that has been lit for both of them, the oldest symbol of state killing in the world, God, this touches me, it's going to be lit for Montana. It's going to be lit for you. Because you're going to be a beacon of moral righteousness and goodness that's going to go before the world. And we're going to get that Colosseum lit for you. And I urge you to be a part of this great endeavor. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Sister Helen for being our keynote speaker. And if you'll come up here for just a couple of minutes, I'm sure that there are some folks that might have questions. Are there any questions for Sister Helen? Everyone take a moment,
comments.
Breathe.
Oh,
breathe.
Comments.
Right in the back.
I've heard advocates for the abolition of the death penalty propose life without parole as an alternative. And I'm ambivalent about that, and I'm worried that it could be used in an unfair and abusive way, similarly to the way the death penalty is. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Let me ask you this. Do you have life without parole in Montana? Yes. You already have it. It's not up to the abolitionists. And here's the way I see it. We have a long, long, long way to go to prison reform in this country. We have 2.3 million people incarcerated. We have 1 in every 100 adults incarcerated. A huge percentage of our African American and Latino are in prison. We have a long, long way for prison reform. But the first moral step with the death penalty is we have to take death off the table. And look what's happening in Texas. Finally, they put life without parole, and nobody opposed it more than the prosecutors because they didn't want to lose the death penalty as their bargaining chip to get people to confess. And juries, remember, juries are just people like us that are asked to do this godlike decision, now decide if this human being should live or die. And when they know, it's a safety thing, that a person is not going to get out of prison, it is easier for juries to vote against the death penalty and not to kill people. We must work for prison reform. Life without parole certainly is not an answer, but all these long sentences we're giving to human beings for drugs. 2/3 of people in prison are there for nonviolent crimes. We got to do prison reform. We have to. So I'm with you on that. But to say, well, I'm ambivalent about, like, you got it. You already got it. So you got to get death off the table. We cannot, and even from a very good conservative point of view, why have government mixed up and make a decision on who lives and dies when you can barely trust government to do anything right? I mean, it's a valid consideration, don't you think? Okay.
Right here.
Yeah.
Sister, what do you do about the Old Testament dicta about
eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, those that shed blood will have their blood shed. I know how to handle this one. I've been on talk shows, like in North Carolina, all right? Here we go. Y'all, here it is, y'all. Replay. Well, now we're going to open the phones to our callers. You've heard the good nun here said she didn't think Jesus would pull the switch. Okay, Chuck, you're on. And here goes Chuck. Well, I got my Bible open right here, clear as day. In Genesis, those that shed blood will have their blood shed. And I say, hey, Chuck, turn that Bible 2 pages early, and you're also going to see that those that commit adultery should be stoned. Chuck, you want to do that? There were 37 different crimes, minimally, that people could get the death penalty for in the Old Testament. But what are they doing? They're going through the desert. They don't have prisons, and punishments are harsh and swift. You could get the death penalty for assassinating your parents, for touching sacred objects in the temple, for not keeping the Sabbath. You could get the death penalty for having sex with an animal. A poor animal got the death penalty too, consenting or not. But you know what? People don't know pot squally about the Bible. I mean, they did this test on the Bible, and 10% of the American public identified Joan of Arc as Noah's wife. They don't know anything about the Bible. That's true what I'm telling you. So people pull out their little Bible quotes and toss them. A good friend of mine, Will Campbell, called it biblical quarterbacking. You toss your quote, and we can do that till the cows come home. There is a thrust and progression in the Bible. People always do that eye for an eye quote. They never quote Jesus. Yeah. You have heard it said of an eye for an eye. And see, Lloyd LeBlanc got the spirit of what Jesus said. Why forgiveness is a way of saving your own life, and why we can't, why we have to love our enemies. Because if we keep people as our enemies, you can be destroyed by that. Hatred and anger, if it stays inside of us, will kill us. And the wisdom that love for our own selves And when you hear the stories of the murder victims' families, like Bud Welch, when his daughter Julie was killed in the Oklahoma City bombing, and how every morning when his feet hit the floor, all he could think was, get McVeigh. And he's drinking to go to sleep at night, and he's drinking to get going in the morning. He's smoking 5.5 packs of cigarettes a day. And then his enlightenment came by touching the knob of the car radio and remembering being in the car with Julie. And the news was on, and they were talking about an execution in Texas, and she turned to him and said, Dad, that's about nothing but vengeance. And he realizes he can't honor her by asking for the death penalty for Timothy McVeigh. And by the time of McVeigh's execution came, he said half the victims' families had figured out that they weren't going to go and see over closed circuit TV about Timothy McVeigh being killed, because even if they watched the execution, when they would come home, they had to face the empty chair. When a human life is taken from us, it can never be replaced. That's God's work. The Great Spirit, as you're talking about, Diana. It's not us. And they are our witnesses. See, without them, we need them. We need them in Montana. We need the witnesses of people who can come before us and say, this is the answer. We are blessed. Blessed are your eyes that see what you see, and your ears that hear what you hear, and your hearts that understand what you understand, because we are being awakened to one of the big moral issues of our day. And we get to participate in social change to end it. I've seen the torture of people on the death penalty. I've been with the mothers who have to bury their children at the saddest funerals you can imagine after the state has killed their child. At the end, you end up with another dead person and another weeping family, and what have we done? Is it not a profound act of despair for our society to say that when someone is killed, what we have to do is kill them and imitate them in the worst behavior of human beings and make it legal that we will imitate them, and that is what is going to heal us? We need restorative justice. We got to start being smart about healing ourselves as a society, not imitating the violence and legalizing it and teaching our children that finally when you don't know what to do to somebody and they hurt you, you go hurt them back. What will that ever do in our society? I didn't mean to make that long speech.
Thank you again, sister. So we're coming to the close of our meeting. I hope that you all learned something and got tools to take back with you and get active on the death penalty and the abolition for 2011. And I know Dave asked this question, and I don't think any of you were loud enough. Are we going to abolish the death penalty in 2011? Are we going to abolish the death penalty in 2011? Thank you all. Thank you for getting informed and getting active. We appreciate it.